President Barrow declares a 7-day national mourning in the Gambia following the death of the country's Vice President, Barrow Diouf. Gambia's Trade Minister continues his tour of industrial companies in the country. And Egypt is set to invest $50 billion to improve its water production capacity. Well, this and more coming your way on The World Today. This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching The World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. And we begin with a very sad note because President Adama Barrow has declared a 7-day national mourning following the death of the country's Vice President, Barrow Diouf, after brief illness. Now the declaration was made through the office of the government spokesperson, who also indicates that all flags will be flying half-mast. The death of the country's number 2 occurred in New Delhi, India, in these early hours of Wednesday morning around 12:41 Indian time, as announced by the presidency. Yahya Jammeh has more details of that in this report.
President Adama Barrow joins the nation to mourn the death of his Vice President Barrow Diouf, who he remembers as a very serious, level-headed, patriotic, dedicated and competent individual. The Gambian leader also describes the late Vice President Diouf as an honest Gambian who spent his entire life trying to improve a lot of mankind. According to a statement from the presidency, VP Diouf, aged 66, had trained as a qualified teacher and taught for years at Nusrat High School, the Gambia College in Brikama, and the Gambia Technical Training Institute, GTTI. Accordingly, the late Vice President Diouf took a bachelor's degree from the University of Bristol, a master's degree in English from the University of London, and a master's degree in developmental economics from the University of Bath. He had earlier received a diploma in human rights studies from the University of St. Edward's Island in Canada. Until he was appointed VP on 4 May 2022, Vice President Diouf had served in various capacities including education, research, science and technology, permanent secretary in various ministries across the government. He had also served as World Bank Director for West and Central Africa for over a decade, a position he will relinquish to take up cabinet appointments in the new political dispensation. The late VP Diouf became the 4th Vice President under the Barrow government in May 2022 when he was appointed as the country's number 2 in the current Barrow administration, a position he served for about 9 months before his demise. On behalf of the First Family, the government and the people of the Republic of the Gambia, President Barrow expresses his heartfelt condolences to the family of the late VP Diouf, the Gambian nation and the residents of the Gambia. The late VP Diouf was survived with a wife and blessed with family of several children. Meanwhile, the statement also indicates that upon arrival, the body of the late Vice President will be laid in state at the National Assembly for state funeral. Arrangements for the funeral will be announced later and the book of condolences will be opened tomorrow Thursday at the State House. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.
Now, let's stay with the death of the Vice President because reacting to the news, the country's Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Sidi Keita, earlier today expressed his shock to the news and described VP Diouf as his confidant. Now, the Finance Minister made the remark during a TRT meeting with the World Bank at the South Dauda Karabakh Conference Center. Let's take a listen to the Honorable Minister.
My deliberate statement by recognizing and praying for the departed soul of His Excellency Barrow Diouf. Ali was not only a vice president, but a brother and a colleague and a confidant. It's with deep heart that we learned this morning about his demise.
That is Gambia's Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Taya, paying tribute to the late Gambia's Vice President, Honorable Barrow Diouf, who passed away in the early hours of Wednesday morning in the New Delhi rather, India. Now, moving on, Egyptian authorities are initiating measures to expand their water production capacity amid reporting threats of water scarcity in the country. The North African nation is planning to invest about $50 billion by 2037 to boost its water production volume for its people and agriculture sector. Despite relying heavily on the River Nile for its water consumption, the Arab nation needs to augment its investment to meet up its water demand. Let's have more details of that in this report.
A 2021 UNICEF report warned that Egypt could run out of water in 2025. This looming threat of water scarcity has driven Cairo to move rapidly to enhance its water management.
Egypt is utilizing every water resource to its best track. Nile water is being managed with efficiency. The same goes for groundwater. However, what we call non-conventional water resources are witnessing a great boom. That is desalination and recycling water. Egyptian scientists are always working on these issues to maximize the best utilization of water.
Currently, the country is investing $2.8 billion to increase its desalination capacity fourfold by 2025. That will generate just 1.6% of the country's annual consumption. Agriculture, however, drinks up to 86% of water, so Cairo's focus in recent years has been to enhance its irrigation systems. Moving on a strategy to develop precision irrigation, the Egyptian Space Agency could be the salvation.
Satellites in general are able to observe what humans are not able to. Satellites are able to observe in different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum, and in each of those regions you are able to provide some meaningful information about different habitats, if we are talking about the atmosphere, if we are talking about the hydrosphere.
Space imaging and remote sensing analyze the healthiness of vegetation and help farmers manage the water consumption. It's a track that could soon see Egypt implement revolutionary technologies to manage its water systems.
You are using a massive amount of data sets, you massive amount of resources, and at the same time you don't have much time in order to process all of that. And this is where it comes the interplay between data sciences and Earth observations, where you utilize different kind of smart technologies, like artificial intelligence or machine learning. All of this is an ecosystem that needs to be established.
Egypt is classified as a hyper-arid region. The Nile provides it with more than 95% of water it consumes. Officially, the North African nation needs to double the 55.5 billion cubic meters it gets from the Nile annually to support its growing agriculture and population demand. From managing water consumption and irrigation systems on the ground to using advanced space technologies, Egypt is not wasting time or resources to save every possible drop of water it can.
And that water-related report there is coming from the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Now, elsewhere in the continent, South African citizens have expressed frustrations over the country's energy regulatory company's decision to increase electricity prices, given the prevailing economic hardship. Now, Eskom's latest move to increase the electricity tariff came at a time when South Africa faces a growing inconsistent power supply in most parts of the country, leaving many worried about the situation. Here's more details of that in this report.
A decision by South Africa's energy regulator to raise electricity tariffs by nearly 19% shocked the country. The hefty hike is lower than Eskom's requested 32%, but is more than double inflation and will cut deep into consumers' pockets.
It's not a nice thing, especially considering where generally the cost of living is at the present moment, right? Electricity costs, paying that is not going to be there is quite, I'd say, unfair on many people, especially considering where as well our economy is right now.
People are losing a lot, they can't make it, even on the pricing, like profits and everything, people are losing a lot. Also, it also affects the economy of the country. Big businesses.
Load shedding has intensified over the last 15 years, sparking widespread criticism over the increase.
Anything beyond the CPI is Eskom recovering losses that they have incurred in the previous financial years as a result of their inefficiencies. So we are complaining because literally what we are doing, we are thanking ESCOM for its poor performance.
There is, however, a glimmer of hope for South Africans as inflation pressures ease globally.
There will be that impact on inflation from the electricity side, but there are many other developments which are boosting economic activity in the sense that we expect fuel prices to come down. The rand has been surprisingly strong, so that helped to add to the downside pressures on inflation.
South Africa has officially experienced over 200 days of load shedding in 2022, and there's still no end in sight for rolling blackouts for 2023. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa cancelled a trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos to deal with the energy crisis at home, but with experts predicting another 10 years of load shedding, a quick fix is highly unlikely.
This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul, and from that report there in South Africa, we now take a break and come back shortly.
TAF Africa Global is the first and biggest private real estate developer in the Gambia, with presence in 7 other African countries. We are launching of the first, smart and most modern office and retail towers in Gambia, called TAF Twins, located in the heart of an institutional area and 10 minutes drive from Banjul. TAF Twins is designed to have 5 floors of office spaces ranging from 50 meters square to over 1,000 meters square, 2 elevators, central air conditioning, 24-hour electricity supply, with the ground floor reserved for banking, supermarket, restaurant and coffee shops. For your bookings and reservations, please call now on 376-2333 or 776-2333.
Welcome back, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And once again, many thanks for joining us. Let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, the Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, Babukar Sumaila Diouf, on Tuesday visited 3 industrial companies in Banjul, including Weight and Measurement Bureau, the Gambia Milling Corporate and Nissim Flour Manufacturing Company. This is part of an initiated inspection tour of industrial enterprises in the country with a view to learn their challenges and find possible solutions. Moses Mendy has the details in this report.
So every office, we have about 1 ton of this station in every office. Help us to verify, skills of higher capacity.
On the second day of the familiarization of various enterprises under his purview, the Trade and Industry Minister visited the Weight and Measurement Bureau before proceeding to the Gambia Milling Corporation and Nassim Trading Limited. Minister Diouf's visits are meant to abreast him with first-hand knowledge of the industry's operation and the problems they face. He has been listening to the operators of the industries and agencies to play a crucial role in addressing their challenges. The Weight and Measurement Bureau is responsible for verifying all weight devices and products available in the market. Yahya Jammeh, the controller of the Bureau, explains the operational modalities to the Minister, while constraints currently impeding their activities.
Going by every institution really must be faced with constraints, and face constraints, start from equipment, because as you have seen, equipment is key to the success of this office, because operations are based on, facts. They are based on not mere observations, but are based on accuracy of instruments. So to be able to have those instruments is key. And the other challenge that we highlighted was the issue of transportation. This we've already highlighted. And also the issue of manpower, because as you know, we are operating in 4 regions of this country. And we want to expand. We don't want to be seen to be operating in just few regions of the country.
According to him, the department occasionally embarks on a weight verification rampage in the markets to tackle fraudulent measurements. Before proceeding to the next stop, Minister Diouf assured to support the Weight and Measurement Bureau in tackling the challenges. The Trade Minister also visited the Gambia Milling Corporation, a flour production company in Banjul. The company uses wheat as the raw product for the production of flour. Its operational manager, Eugen Rabatoko Tani, takes the minister around the facility and discloses the quantity of flour they produce on a daily basis.
The number of bags that we produce every day is 6,000 bags to 7,000 bags, that means 300 metric ton to 350 metric ton a day. The mill can grind the wheat 450 ton a day. So the number of staff is 75. 70% of that is on operation side. So you used to receive a wheat vessel every month.
The general manager of the Gambia Milling Corporation, Jack Shoda, highlights a major challenge that is not only affecting the flour mill, but by extension the cost of flour in the Gambia.
On the outside, which is part of operations, we can look at the port. The port, especially in Ramadan and rainy season, very congested. We can wait anywhere from 5 days to 21 days. There was a time in January where we had to divert a boat because it would have taken 3 weeks and we would have paid a lot of money. As you may or may not know, the cost of a boat has risen, probably tripled in cost, or maybe quadrupled in cost from what it was in 2020, 2021, whereby a daily rate for a boat was $6,000 and now it's $26,000 to $30,000 a day. So every day you spend with your boat at the port, you're paying an extra $30,000, which goes into the cost of the wheat.
Minister Diouf wraps up the day with a visit to another flour production company called Nassim Trading Limited, whose human resources manager decries the lack of enough workers despite a decent salary cap.
As the HR here, I always face challenges with the employee, because some of the youths here, when you employ them and they come to work, 1 day, 2 days, they come, because some of them, they prefer even to be a casual worker, let me tell you. Because casual worker, we used to pay them. But when they come, we have to put them as a professional staff. But when you put them as a professional staff, they work only a few days and they left.
Speaking to the press after a visit to the different facilities, Minister Diouf gives his impression about what he has observed during the visits.
It's another great day that has signaled a lot to me in terms of potential to create jobs in this country, but also, like you said, address food security. A lot of what we eat is connected to flour, and we know the raw materials are not available in country yet. Although I refuse to give up on the possibility of the National Research Institute coming up with the appropriate soil and conditions to enable us grow wheat.
The minister's familiarization tour is expected to continue in the coming days, with the industry minister looking to boost industrial development through the use of data to draw a roadmap that addresses trade and employment challenges in the Gambia. For Eyeafrica News, I am Moses Imende.
And from the report there by Moses Imende, now to some other news around the continent. The slow circulation of the newly introduced banknotes in Nigeria triggers the concerns among some citizens, including business owners, as the decommissioning date for the all-currency approaches. Now, the new policy, which comes into force on January 9, will not be extended according to the country's apex bank. But economic experts have urged the bank to boost its awareness campaign to help the citizenry. Here's more details of that in this report.
Umar Bashakut's Mini Mart is a one-stop retail shop for household essentials. It's patronized by scores who reside in Jahi village, a local community in Nigeria's capital Abuja. The majority of Umar's customers pay in cash, and more than 90% of them still use the old Naira notes for transactions.
Some of my customers used to pay me in new note, but it's just few of them, just 1% of it.
Like Umar's customers, more Nigerians still do not have access to the new notes, and the decommissioning of the old notes scheduled for January the 31st.
I went to this Heritage Bank to withdraw. The security guy told me that there's a new note in this machine, but the maximum at which I can withdraw is just 2,000 naira. Whenever we go to bank to do any transaction, we shouldn't be coming back with the old note. We should be coming back with the new notes.
I've withdrawn money from the bank through the counter, even ATM. I didn't get any new notes. For the banks to still be issuing old notes at this time of January, then imagine that. Is it that everybody will start scrambling to change it?
The central bank's move is aimed at mopping up excess money in circulation and boosting its cashless policy. The Apex Bank said it will not be extending the deadline.
Reason would always prevail. Okay, when the facts are there that the money is not in circulation, like you've said, it's not the fault of citizens that are not circulating it. So there's no way you can, they want to, stifle or stop the economy from running. That 31st can be sacrosanct. It cannot be. It should not be.
Nigeria is relatively a cash-dependent economy with a vast gap in financial inclusion. While many fear that Nigerians, especially in rural areas, may still be stuck with the old currency by the deadline, economic watchers are urging the Apex Bank to intensify distributions and awareness about the new notes and its cashless policy.
And on to our final story now, because the Minister of Finance and the World Bank on Wednesday hold the first ever steering committee meeting on the turnaround allocation for the Gambia. The meeting took place at the Sadauda Yahya Jammeh Conference Center in Bijilo. Africa TV's Aizatu B.I. Kujabi has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia's turnaround allocation is intended to support the country in pursuing macroeconomic reforms and performance to accelerate a transition out of fragility and build resilience amid economic hardships. The turnaround strategy is being implemented by a steering committee chaired by the Gambia's finance minister and co-chaired by the World Bank Group and the United Nations Resident Coordinator. Finance Minister CDK M. Keita said the gathering is the steering committee's first meeting since the elaboration and the adoption of the turnaround allocation strategy and called for continued efforts to sustain the gains achieved so far.
This is the first meeting of the steering committee since the elaboration and adoption of the turnaround allocation strategy. While significant strides have been made in key areas such as transitional justice, macroeconomic reforms and performance, stabilization of the government finances, youth employment and state-owned enterprise reforms, the government under the leadership of His Excellency President Adama Barrow is convinced that continued effort is critical to sustain these gains and consolidate the transition and reconciliation process, political stability, and inclusive and broad-based growth for enhanced poverty reduction. Such initiatives will have to be founded on solid policy and institutional arrangements, improve human capital development outcomes, and enhanced resilience.
He added that the turnaround allocation is aimed at enhancing and strengthening institutions, transitions, and build resilience to achieve good governance and sustainable development. Mr. Keita continued that the 5 strategic goals were developed after a true analysis.
The analysis led to the identification of 5 strategic goals. 1. Governance and institution transitional justice. with the objective to enhance and improve human rights, access to justice, and good governance. 2, security and political stability, focusing on political stability and security sector reform as a way to restore trust between citizens and the state and continue the positive transition trajectory. Land management, environment, and climate change to enhance sustainable management and conservation of the environment, natural resources for increased resilience and equitable ownership. Human capital development to deliver and improve access to basic services. And finally, inclusive growth and economic stability to reduce poverty and promote economic and social equality. These goals are very much in synchrony with the priorities of the Green Recovery Focused National Development Plan 2023 to 2027, which will also be adopted soon. The turnaround allocation strategy creates significant additional resources on top of the existing IDA allocation.
The World Bank resident representative, Ms. Faber Office, details more on the turnaround allocation.
So what is the turnaround allocation? The Fragility, Conflict and Violence envelope of the World Bank provides resources to IDA countries. So IDA countries are the countries, low-income countries that benefit from our International Development Association assistance, of which the Gambia is one. And it provides resources to IDA countries that are facing different kinds of FCV groups. So Fragility, Conflict and Violence is FCV in our parlance. So these are supplemental resources that are provided in addition to a country's normal performance-based allocation. And these top-up resources enable IDA to target and tailor its support to the prevailing conflict and fragility dynamic specific to each eligible country. The turnaround allocation is one of the FCV envelopes. It supports countries emerging from either conflict, social, political crisis, or disengagement, and where we see a window of opportunity for IDA to either re-engage or intensify its engagement to support these countries to pursue major reforms to accelerate the transition out of fragility and build resilience.
On November 3rd, 2021, the government of the Gambia received the World Bank management's approval to access the IDA 19 turnaround allocation, allowing the Gambia to access a 125% to top of its performance-based allocation of IDA resources. Critical milestone identified in the Gambia's turnaround strategy have been achieved, and this enabled the countries to continue access to the turnaround allocation resources for fiscal year 2023. For Eyeafrica News, Yahya Jammeh.
And you have been watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And from the report there by Yahya Jammeh, we now bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.